morning, guys. I thought this morning I'd show you how to make yoghurtised milk. I'm new to baby goats. I've always had the mothers actually bring them up, so it's a whole new thing to have to bottle feed goats. And I've had to do it because the mother that we brought here in transit to her new home basically had ripped teats from having 3 babies at 7 weeks old, trying to nurse off 2 teats, and with their little baby teeth they were actually ripping her teats. So we've had to separate mum from the babies to give mum time to heal, so there's no permanent damage to her teats. And because of that, initially I was feeding the babies, I was milking out mum and feeding the babies back her milk, but I've decided that basically it was still painful for mum because you're having to pull the teat to actually extract the milk. And I've decided to basically just dry mum off now, which means that the milk will slowly get reabsorbed into her body and she'll lose her udders in time, and basically transition the babies onto milk powder and bottle feeding. It's also to help with the transportation. They're going to be on a carrier for around about 24 hours, and they need to have their bottle feeds during that time. So obviously they can't nurse off mum because they're just going to damage her again. So they needed to transition off into bottles. So we thought we'll do it now rather than later, so that the babies are basically, what would you say? Well, I suppose they're used to the bottle to make life easier for everybody. So this is my setup. I don't know if you can see all this. I have a jug here, which I use to make the boiling water. I have a pot, which I put the boiling water into, and then once I've made up the formula, I put the bottles into the boiling water in the pot just to heat up to, it's supposed to be I think 37 degrees, and I can sort of work it out by hand when you do the little baby test of milk on your arm as to how hot it is. But I've sort of got to the stage I can actually feel the bottle and feel the milk, and yeah. Right, so I'm going to show you how we go about it here, and it's not as scary as it was appearing on some of the YouTube videos, which seemed quite complicated. Yoghurtising milk can actually be a really simple process. So start by turning the jug on. We'll let that go. I use a shaker container. This is one of those like, I don't know if you call them like a milk shaker things. Actually, I'll turn that off for a second because that's going to drown me out. And normally it comes with like a plastic thing that you use for shaking the mixture up, but I've got one of these. It's like a spring sphere, and I think it came with some other shaker I got for some protein or energy drink thing, so I use that instead. I find this much more effective. Pop that in, and the milligans that I use is basically 1 scoop per 250 mils. So I've marked off 500 mils. Luckily this is actually segmented, but there's a 500 ml mark. What I do is I fill that up with just water. Okay, so we've got water to 500 mils, nice and easy. Then I grab some Greek yogurt. Use whatever Greek yogurt you like. I like the Carlo one, so that's what I'm using. And I have a dedicated spoon for the babies. It's just a plastic spoon. Yes, I've got a whole stash of them from picnic wear, so that's what I'm using it for. I don't want to use wood because I don't want any bacteria and things or anything to leach out of the wood, because I'd have to boil that first before I used it for the babies. But at least with this, I can reuse it over and over again. Excuse me. And yeah, it's easy to wash as well. So just 1 good dollop. I wouldn't say it's a tablespoon, it's probably 2 tablespoons that I put in for 500 mils. Just blob that in there. And because I've got 3 babies that I'm feeding, I'm going to be making 2 lots. And then I just put that to the side. So I'm using milligans instead of Anlan. Only reason is this was available at the local feed store. And it smells nice. It smells sort of quite vanilla-y. And for 500 mils, it says on here use 250 grams. So that's 1 scoop. That's 250. And 2 scoops. 250. Pop that in there. this. I probably should seal it up in case it falls over. Things like that always happen when it's least expected. Now this is a screw top one as opposed to a push top. The push top shakers, I find, they explode on you. So no, go for screw top. And this is just a Systema one. Yeah, I've got no idea what model it is. No, I can't read anything at the bottom there. But it's BPA free and all the rest of it. But anyhow, so you pop it in there. I tip it upside down initially and just give it a good shake. And that little metal thing goes up and down and actually breaks up the yogurt for you and stirs up the milk. Make sure you've got a good grip on these things because the milk powder itself can get a bit slippery if it's all over the outside. Shaky, shaky, shaky. There we go. And that's pretty much it. Then I grab 2 bottles. These are being washed out and from last night's feed. And all I do now is I pour that into the bottles, and the babies currently are getting around about 300 to 350 mils. During the day, in the morning I give them 350 and at night time they get 300. So you just measure it out. That's to 350. There's actually a line on these Ann Lamb bottles. These are quite handy. They actually come with the little yellow Pritchard teat. And this one here. Foamy at the bottom. So that one there doesn't have quite enough in it. I'm just going to spread. That was at 350, so we'll take this one up to 300. So that's basically 2 at 300. And then need to make another batch. Take that off. Now I'll make up another full batch because what I do is I just store it in here until evening. So just go up to that 500 ml line again. And it's still got the metal shaky thing in it. It's hard to read second time round. My dollop of Carlo, sorry, not Caro. Nice big blob of that. And I don't know what the quantities are, but someone said to me just put as much as you like in, but I found that if I gave them too much, they started getting diarrhea. So, or scours they call it. But, oh, lost this movie. Let's do that in. Don't waste it. All this stuff costs money these days. And then I just rinse that off and then be washed properly later. But I like to wash as I go. I've only got a very small workspace here. That air dries up there. Dry my hands. Milk powder, where are you? So that I'll put away for later. Milk powder. Be careful not to knock over your bottles. And it's probably quite typical that while I'm doing this, something like that will happen. You know, what's it? Murphy's Law and all. 1. And 2. There we go. And again, close it up. You don't want any moisture inside the milk powder. Pop that out of the way as well. Put those 2. Close this up. Yet again, screw top. And just give it a go upside down. And just a bit of a shake. So yoghurtising milk basically helps to safeguard the kids from getting bloat. So there we go. Whatever keeps the kids happy, healthy and pain-free, I am all for. And fill this one up. Where's that line? Where's my 300 mils? That's 300 mils there. So that is everybody sitting on 300 mils. So that I put in the fridge for this evening. It's basically another feed, 1 bottle, so I only have to make up 1 more shaker. And now the Pritchard teats. Just be mindful when you buy these. Some of them have the washer and some of them don't. This one doesn't, so I've got to screw it in extra tight. The other thing is, it comes with like a little, what would you call it, little pointy bit at the end. I cut those off because my babies are a bit bigger. It makes it slightly easier for them to drink milk. But just be careful, don't go too crazy and create a massive hole, because that means when they're sucking, they're going to get too much in. So they still have to work for their milk, but it's not going to be pouring down their throat because I've left the hole fairly small. But I've got rid of the little nipply bit. So if you have a look, basically it's got a flat end on the top there now. So now my two clear bottles fit the one with the washer. That goes onto the two clear bottles. Just shake, swirl around, and then this slightly opaque bottle actually it works with the one that doesn't have the washer, but it leaks on the other two. So I'll work that out over time. So that's my 3 bottles done. Next thing I'm going to do is put the jug on, and then I'll come back to you with how I warm it up. So the jug is now boiled, and what I do is I pop it into my pot. I don't put boiling water into the containers because I found out that when you do that, which one is it? The bottle warps. These are not heat proof, so don't do that. So basically I put it into a pot. You can use anything, but this just holds 3 bottles, so that's fine. Put the jug over there, and then these bottles already made up, they just sit in the water. Takes a couple of minutes, nothing major, and I just go off and start cleaning and do other things. And let's pretend that's now warmed up. Okay, so I take them out, I give it a bit of a shake, because obviously the outside milk will be warmer than the inside if it hasn't gone right through. Pop it back in again, and it normally takes maybe about 2 minutes if I'm putting boiling water in here, for it to actually get to the right sort of temperature. Now the reason that the bottle doesn't collapse with the boiling water is because you've got the cooler milk on the inside, so it still helps to keep its form. But if you put boiling water inside it, yeah, the thing just disintegrates, it just flops over. So we do that. We do something, I don't know, listen to some music or something. I've always got the radio going on here, for the babies, and I use something like classic hits, something sort of not too rocky and nothing with too much bass, just so they have a little bit of ambient noise. And then down here we've got people coming and going, dogs barking, all sorts of things, so they get used to other sounds as well, along with me using some equipment and stuff as well. So okay, so let's pretend it's been 2 minutes. Some people do the arm test, which you can do. Supposed to pour it on there. I actually pour it into my palm because I have more feeling temperature wise in my palm. But the other thing is, after a while you sort of work out what the right temperature is. I swirl it around, just wait for the outside of the bottle to sort of cool down a bit, and basically warm milk is what I feed them. You don't want it too hot because it'll scald them, just like having a piping hot tea or a coffee. You don't want to burn their little mouths. Yep, and that's pretty much it. And then from there, take that out. I keep the boiling water and go feed the babies, and then I'll show you what I do when I'm basically cleaning up. Okay, right guys, well the babies have had their milk, empty bottles, and I'll just show you how I go about cleaning everything, because you've got to be careful about bacteria. Sure, okay, goats are outside eating all sorts of things, sampling, you know, even each other's poos and God knows what in their mouths, but in terms of milk and stuff, I prefer to make sure that these bottles are always clean. And yeah, what the goats do outside of that, not my problem. But anyhow, so what I start off with doing is I fill up the jug, ready for next time, because I'm a bit OCD like that. And I find that a lot of the time, I'm usually racing in the evening. There's a lot to do around here at the moment, and I just leave that all ready to go. I actually do unplug it though, so take that off. And I have this little, we won't talk about what it looks like, but basically it's a paper towel that I've just folded up, and I just stick it in the nib there. And oops, not that far though. Oh dear, fail, it's gone in there. Okay, that's not what you do, people. But hang on a sec, let me get it out. Okay, that's going in the rubbish. Hold fire. So let me start again. So with the jug itself, because we've got birds and things this time of the year, I just get a paper towel, fold it into, or depending on the size of your paper towel, and just fold it into half, and then just roll it up. And then I just stick this in the spout of the jug. And I do this at night because it is a farm. I have no idea what runs around in here at night time. But that just keeps the inside of the jug clean, and it also stops any dust, any road dust and stuff going into the jug as well. So yeah, it's just something I do. I'm a bit anal like that, but that's fine. Right, now to clean the bottles, firstly I have one of these bottle brushes, and make sure when you buy one that it's actually going to get into your bottle in terms of length, but also that end, this one's actually curled over, that it actually does fit in the top end of the bottle in the mouth. Some of the bottle brushes I'm finding are actually too short and they can't get to the bottom of that. So try and find your decent one. This is a nice hairy one too. The silicone one that I've got up at the house has got a bit of a bobble at the end. That won't fit inside the nib, the what do you call it, the bottle, opening of the bottle. So this is Massport's old head scratcher, and I had a spare one that I hadn't used, so luckily I had this on hand. This I just use for the shaker to clean that, and this is one of those cheapy collapsible dish drainers which I got from the clearance warehouse, otherwise known as I think Crackerjack these days, and this was $8, but it just makes life really good in terms of storage because I don't have a lot of storage room. Right, so in terms of washing the little things, I take the nib off, okay, and initially whilst everything is still wet, I don't leave things sitting around. I put the nib under the sink. Maybe I'll just leave that out of the way for a sec. That goes, and I force the water through the clip. Take it out, force it through, and then I throw that into the boiling water. Problem solved. And I'll do that with all of them actually. We'll start with that side of things. So babies are washed. Now this is the important thing about having a good shaker. You don't want to have clumps of yogurt getting stuck in the red teat of the Pritchard. Drink it out, okay. And you should be able to see the water being pushed through. And there it goes as well. So this is why you don't throw out your boiling hot water. It's not boiling anymore because it's had, what, maybe 5 minutes to just cool down while I've been feeding the babies. So it's at the level that I'm not going to burn myself when I put my hand in there. Now, the bottles. So, whilst everything's still wet, because you want to be able to get all the milk and stuff out, and sometimes you end up with like a tide line. I don't know if you can see that, just above my black line. So that's basically milk powder that's undissolved in there. And fill it up with the water. And here I've got some detergent, just dishwashing detergent. Just put a blob of that in there. Keep that aside for the next one. Get my brush, which I need to soften to get it in there. So put that into the hot water. That just softens it a little bit. Pop that into the thing. And today, of course, it's not going to go in easily. There we go. Fill the rest of it up with water. Pass the brush. And honestly, wear old clothes when you're feeding babies, because A, I'm covered in milk now, but also I'm going to be covered in detergent in a second. Okay, just give that a bit of a clean. Okay, pull it out. And you get covered in detergent. If you're like me, I'm allergic to certain chemicals. So, the bottle brush and the detergent will help clean the bottle. And it was after this point, when I was doing this, I thought I'll be extra safe and pour the rest of the boiling water in here. Not a good idea. I would have thought that these would have been heat proof, or heat safe I think is the term, but clearly not. Okay. Then I give them a bit of a shake. And the beauty about this little cheapy one is that it's got little nodules. So I can put the bottle in there, but I don't like the bottle to touch the base. So I can actually jam it in between the, I don't know what you call them, the little spiky things. So the bottle actually stays off the ground. And that just means that there's more airflow and yeah, less bacteria. You know, a bit OCD as I mentioned before. Okay, and I do that to all the other bottles. Dollop of stuff. Warm water. Oh, that easy that time. And just sort of swirl it round, get right to the bottom. Get rid of any tide lines. Pull it out. Hold your, close your mouth. And basically empty that out. Give it a good shake while you're doing it, just in case there's anything else in there. And a couple of rinse sounds. I probably do 2 or 3 rinse outs, just in case there's any residual soapiness. The little raptor babies won't like that. Out any excess. And what I do in the afternoon when, what's the time now? Oh, it's probably about 10 now. So around about sort of 1 or 2 o'clock, I'll turn it around so that they're sitting that way. And because I have heat that comes through from this, what do you call it, the clear light. And basically, when it's like that, it's just going to trap a lot of the moisture inside. But if I do it that way, then basically the steam or condensation or whatever evaporates. But initially, I start off upside down. So we're on boil water here, so at least down at the shed. And it's beautiful artisan water. It's 180 meters down, and it's from the 3rd aquifer. So the babies, you could use bottled water. Some people just use normal tap water. Luckily we're not on town supply. Auckland water used to taste awful, and apparently Warkworth water is just as ghastly, if not worse. But try and get something that doesn't have any residual flavour, and just be mindful of hard metals in water. You know, it is next level, but if I don't like it, then the babies probably won't like it. All of our troughs here are fed from the bore as well. Everything goes up to the header tank and then comes down. And one more. So just until there's no bubbles, that's why I shake it. It tells me if there's any bubbles. There we go, all done there. So that's the bottles done. Look at that, they all stay nice and through. The last of the soap out of that. And I'm into air drying things around here. Now these things here, the hot water isn't so hot anymore. Just in case if there was anything residual. Then I have a folded paper towel, which basically I just pop the teats onto. Move that back. So they just sit on there. They just air dry as well. I have a stash of these because within the first week, one of my little raptors, and you'll see how I started bottle feeding. I had to start by putting the teat into the corner of their mouth. Well, that's where the little ganashes are, aren't they, all the molars. So they'd happily just chew away. I ended up with massive cuts from their sharp little teeth. So a word of warning, people, don't put your fingers into your goats' mouths, especially down their cheek line, because, yeah, those things are sharp. I had a friend of mine years ago doing that. He tried to feed Massport something and stuck his hand in Massport's mouth. So the rest of the water, basically the hot water, I just use just to clean the bench. Any residual milk powder. And I put it inside here as well. I'm sure it's not boiling water, but it's boiling enough. And that just keeps everything clean. And that just sits there to air dry as well. And that's pretty much it. So I've got the shaker already filled with half, so I'm ready for one bottle. So basically I only need to make another bottle, another 2 bottles from one whole shaker. And I made a mistake before when I was mentioning about the Milligan's powder. Each of those scoops, I think, is from memory, is 40 milligrams. Let me go grab it. So it says here, I thought of, where did I get 215 milligrams? Here you go. So one scoop is 40 grams. So it's 40 grams per 250 mils for my goat kids based on their age. Now the back of the packet, in fact, Ann's probably the same. It'll have instructions as to how much you feed depending on the animal. So mine are basically age-wise. What are mine? They're 7 weeks, so they're in the higher range. So they technically should be getting 500 mils. Is that right? 500 mils a day. That seems to me, well, it's not an awful lot. They get around that because they actually get 300 mil feedings. But, in fact, they're getting more than that, aren't they? But they also have hay, they're eating carrot, pumpkin. What else they're eating? All sorts of things, actually. Bit of fiskins. So they're probably close to weaning, but I'm just keeping them on the bottle because I have a feeling that Pippa wasn't feeding them for a little while because of her ripped teats. And yeah, I just want them to catch up. The boy's good. The 2 little girls, they're a little bit on the underweight side. So I'm just keeping this going. And when they get transported, I'm making up bottles. You know those water bottles you can buy that are like 500 mils? So I'm going to be making up formula for them to take on the trip. The transporters have a fridge, so they can put the bottles aside and they've got access to jugs and things to warm up their milk whilst in transit. So I don't want the babies to be without food for 24 hours. That's just not good for any goat. Although they're onto hay and things, they're used to having their milk. And I think the transporter is actually air conditioned, the actual trailer. So I've just got to be mindful that I don't want them getting a chill. So just warm milk. I'm going to be buying a couple of bottles, making it up. I'll provide the teats and it'll go in a carry bag. And Pippa's food, she'll also have her breakfast and dinner and next morning's breakfast made up for her. And the babies, I'll make up a little container of carrot and pumpkin for them as well. So basically not too much of a break to their routine. It's going to be stressful enough for them just going in the transporter. So I want to try and normalise the routine as much as I can. And that's what I can do, is make up formula for them and give them their little bowls of carrot and pumpkin. Pippa has her food and apparently they provide hay. So makes the trip a little bit more comfortable for them. So there we go, guys. That's what I do. You know, everyone does things differently. But in terms of yoghurtising milk, it was really, really simple. And, you know, I'm not a big goat producer in terms of baby kids or anything like that. But I was pretty much freaking out thinking, oh my God, how, you know, I was looking at people making stuff using easy-o containers and making big batches. And I've decided I make it up at the time. I might make a day's worth. but I'm just conscious that things can go off and things can settle. So I prefer to make the formula on the day and just refrigerate it. There you go, guys. Hope that's helpful to somebody. And yeah, thank you for watching.